Hi there, welcome to Dr. Tu Academy. This is Java tutorial for beginners, lesson number 19. The topic of lesson number 19 is I/O streams. So what is I/O stream? I/O stream is the input and output data flow. As we know, programming is all about the data. Our programming work can be summarized into 3 steps or 3 parts. Get the data from data source, process data, and output data. The input stream represents input source, and output stream represents output destination. So how to use I/O streams? We import java.io package, and we will use FileInputStream to read data from a file, and we use OutputStream to save data into the file. Let's do some real code. Double-click eclipse.exe. Click on File, New, Project. Click on Java Project. Click on Next. Project name, Lesson 19. Click on Next. Click on Finish. Module name, com.Dr.Tu Academy.Java tutorial .lesson 19. Click on Create. Right click on Lesson 19. New. Class. Project name. com.Dr.Tu Academy.Java tutorial .lesson 19. Class name, code tester. Click on Finish. Now let's create the main method. Public static void main stream args. First, let's open a source file. Stream source file path. On D drive, Java tutorial. Table of contents. TXT. So we are going to read the data from this file, table of contents. File. Source file. Assign new file. Source file path. Notice the red line under the file. See, the file cannot be resolved to a type. We need to import the java.io package. So let's import java.io. There. Now the red line disappeared. before we move forward, we need to check if the file exists. If source file exists, if it exists, then we'll continue. If not, we'll let the user know the file does not exist. System.out.println file plus source file path does not exist. File input stream new file input stream source file. There is a red line beneath the statement. Let's see what went wrong. Put the mouse here. It says unhandled exception type file not found exception. We had the condition to check the file exists, but the IDE will not allow us to use that directly without the try block. So let's add a try block. Try catch IO exception EX. Let's print out the exception error message. System out dot println exception error. Get message. Let's press Ctrl Shift and F key. Now the format looks much better. Integer available bytes is available byte array buffer byte 128. The buffer is used to hold the data read from the file while is read. So we read the data into the buffer. If it's not equal to -1, we continue the read process. So after we execute this read, we read 128 bytes into the buffer each time. To print out the buffer, we are going to put the buffer into a string object. String temp new string buffer standard char sets. We choose UTF-8. We choose UTF-8 Unicode. And print out the string temp. Print line temp. Let's check the available bytes. Available. So in this while block, we will read the data from the file input stream into the buffer. Every time we are going to read 128 bytes into the buffer. Then we convert the buffer into a string object, temp. Then we print out the temp string object. Let's put a breakpoint here. Click on debug button. Step over. Now we have created a new file object, source file, path. Step over. File does not exist. Step over. So this file does not exist. We look at the path. It's Java tutorial. Let's go to the Windows Explorer and check this file. D drive, Java tutorial directory, and the table of contents .txt file. Here's the file we are going to read, table of contents, but the folder name is Java tutorials, not Java tutorial. So we missed one S in the folder name. So we need to correct the folder name, Java tutorial. Let's add S here. So it's Java tutorials. Now let's click the debug button. Step over. Source file. It's Java tutorials. Step over. So this file does exist. Now we are going to create an input file stream from this file. Step over. This is the file input stream. Step over. We create a new buffer. (128 bytes). Step over. Create a new string object based on the buffer. See, this is the content of this file. Step over. See, now we print out the temp. This is the first batch of data we just read from the file. Step over. So the available bytes is 297. Step over. print out the next chunk of data. There. Check the available bytes. 169. Step over. Print out the next chunk of data. Let's check the available bytes. We have only 41 bytes left to read. This is the data we have just read. Available bytes is 0, so no more data to be read. Step over. After we finish the reading of data from the file input stream, we should call the close method to close the FIS. Let's add the close statement here. This is how we use file input stream to read data from the file. Next, let's see how to use file output stream to save data into a new file. String destination file path D drive Java tutorials lesson 19. String content welcome to Dr. 2 Academy. New line. This is Java tutorial for beginners. Lesson 19. New line. File input and output. File destination file file output stream set it to null. Let's use try block. Let's create a new file object. Test file, new file, test file path. Check if the file exists or not. If file exists is false. If the file does not exist, we are going to create a new file. Create a new file. Now let's create a new file output stream for the destination file. New file output stream test file. Let's create a buffer for the content. Put the string content into a byte buffer. Content get bytes. Now we are going to use the file output stream object to write the buffer data into the file. Write byte buffer, flush out. After finish writing, we need to close the file output stream. Let's do that in the finale block. Try catch IO exception. System out print line exception. Get message. Finally, false. Close. We see a red line underneath the close statement. It says unhandled exception type. So we do need to put the close statement inside of another try catch. Try catch IO exception. Out print line exception in false close. Get message. Now let's press Ctrl-Shift-F to reformat the code layout. Now let's put a breakpoint here. Click on debug button. Click on resume. Step over. Step over. So we are going to create a new file called lesson 19, and we are going to put the content. Welcome to Dr. Tu Academy. This is Java tutorial. We are going to put this content into the new file. Step over. Create a file object. Check if the file lesson 19 exists or not. Step over. This file does not exist, so we are going to create a new file. Here we can see we have only one file, table of contents, inside the folder Java tutorials. So this file does not exist yet in this folder. Click on Step Over. Now let's go to the Windows Explorer to see if the file is created or not. As we can see from here, we have created a file lesson19.txt. Click on Step Over. Step Over. Here we retrieve the data of the string object content and put the data into the buffer. The buffer is a byte array. Then we use the FileOutputStream object fast to write the buffer data into the file. Then we close the FileOutputStream object in the finale block. Step over. Now let's go to the Windows Explorer to see if the file contains the data we just written into it. Double-click File Lesson 19. There. So we have successfully written data into the new file, Lesson 19. Now let's do a quick review of our code on FileInputStream and the FileOutputStream. To read a file, we always use the file path to create a new file object. Then we use the file object to create a new file input stream. Then we use the file input stream object to read the data into the buffer. And we can do the while loop to continuously read the data into the buffer. After finish the reading, we need to close the file input stream object. Normally, we should put the close into the finale block, just in case it throws exceptions before the close statement. To write the data into a file, we also use the destination file path to create a file object. Then we check if the file exists or not. If it does not exist, then we use the create a new file method to create a new file. To write the data into the file, we first put the data into the byte array. Then we use the FileOutputStream object to write the array into the file. If we use the buffered FileOutputStream, then we have to call the method flush. But in this case, this is not necessary. And always remember to close the FileOutputStream and the finale block. Now let's do a quick recap of what we just learned about I/O streams. We know programming is all about the data manipulation. So to process data from a file, we can use the FileInputStream to read the data from the file. And after our data manipulation, we can save the newly processed data back into the file by using the FileOutputStream. Remember to import java.io package before we use file output and the file input stream. Our next lesson will be math operations. We will learn how to use the math operators and the math class. That's all for this lesson. I will see you next time. Bye.